So, let's get started slowly, and a few more people will undoubtedly arrive. It's really good to see you, and good to be with you if you're watching the recording. Many people register for these events and then watch the recording in their own time. So if you're watching the recording of this, welcome to you too, and then welcome to everyone who is live at the moment. So my name is Philip Carr-Gomm, and together with my colleague Sacha, who you can see there, Sacha Alistone, we are, alongside our colleague Greg, who isn't here, Greg Donaldson, are running the course in psychosynthesis. And if you haven't looked at the website already, please do, because there's a lot of information on there. But the idea of these open house sessions is to give you a feel for what it's like to actually take the course, to be enrolled in the program, and to give you the chance to ask questions. So if you're thinking of joining the course but have some questions you'd like answered, now's the time. So what we'll do is we'll divide our time into three. We'll introduce ourselves very briefly, and I will run through what the course is, what we're aiming to achieve, and how it kind of will feel for you. And then we'll go straight into an experience. Sacha will lead us in an experience together, which will give you a feel for the sorts of things we do and the kind of exercises we do in the course. And then the third part of our session together will be a chance for you to share and your experiences of the exercise that we do, and also to ask questions about the course. So, I'm Philip Carr-Gomm, and I trained in psychosynthesis about 40 years ago. This will be the second time we'll be running the course. We started the course last year, and it was really a fantastic experience. About 24 people joined the course, and we traveled together over 10 months. And it was a really fulfilling experience, I think. I mean, not only for us, but also for the students too, from all the feedback we got. So it was a great bunch of people. And and Sacha, could you say hello?
Yes, hello everybody. It's lovely to be here with you this evening. I'm in Sussex, in Lewes, and actually just round the corner from Philip, funnily enough. And I trained in psychosynthesis at the Trust in London 11 years ago. And I've been very much enjoying my journey as a psychosynthesis counsellor ever since then.
Yeah, and you can see little kind of bios of us on the website if you want to know more about who these folk are. So I thought perhaps the best way to give you a feel for an overview of the course is to kind of walk you through it. Like, what would it be like if you enrolled on the course and took it over the next 10 months? How would the next 10 months kind of unfold? Well, what would happen is we'd come together fairly soon, actually, in about 3 weeks' time, and we would have an opening session where the Alef Trust would introduce themselves, explain to you how they worked, invite you to participate in their activities, and welcome you on board, and so on. And we would then introduce ourselves in some depth. So each person would get a chance to really introduce themselves, because what we're doing essentially is we're creating a learning field or a learning community together. And we encourage students to form their own separate WhatsApp group or Signal group, or however you want to do it, so that you can communicate between yourselves. And the Alef Trust invites 3 students to form a kind of student body or representatives to kind of feedback on how the course is going independently, so that there's a really good sense of being able to fulfill your needs and adapt very quickly and responsively, rather than waiting till the course ends and then the feedback comes, oh, why didn't you spend more time doing this? Or I wish you hadn't done that, or whatever. The idea is that we're all working on this together, and we can really adapt if need be. I mean, I'm pleased to say that on the whole that there wasn't a need for that, but there were some ways in which we were able to just adapt a little bit to accommodate needs of students. And then you'll be invited to watch a film, a 1-hour film, at your own leisure over the coming fortnight, which will really give you a good orientation. And then we'll meet together again, and we will begin going through the 9 modules. And the 9 modules will really, you can see details of all, and you've probably looked at it already on the website. But so basically, what happens is in the course of the month. So we're still talking about February, just moving into the beginning of March. What you'll do is you'll have a 1.5 hour Zoom together, again recorded if you can't make it, but where we will dive into a particular aspect of psychosynthesis theory and go into it in detail and have time to discuss it together. And then a fortnight later, and you'll have suggested homework. And the way we've created the course is in such a way that you can go as deep as you want with it. So there are homework suggestions. None of this is obligatory. So if you just want to attend the meetings and go with that and do the exercises and that's fine. If you want to do the homework and follow that, and we give kind of suggestions for further homework. So if you want to go really deep and follow all the leads, then you can go deeper with it too. So you can really work with it at the level you want. And in the first month, we'll be really setting psychosynthesis in the historical context of the development of psychology, of its differences and similarities and so on, and what exactly it is and what it's trying to achieve and the kind of where it's coming from. And then in the experiential session, which will happen a fortnight later, we'll work with all of that, but in terms of your own experience. And you'll see in a minute how these kind of exercises work, so that you actually can feel it in your body and your heart and soul as well. And time for sharing, and we make good use of breakout rooms, which are a fabulous way of working and coming back together again in the big group. And then we move into March, and we start to look at the particular model, very powerful model that psychosynthesis uses for the individual self and for the levels of consciousness. Again, looking at it theoretically, how it compares with other models, and then experiencing it. And all the time you know that you can have a one-on-one session with a mentor, so that you can either kind of... People last year, it was interesting seeing how people made use of this. Some people very specifically did sort of one every 3 months, used a session every 3 months. Some people kind of stored them up till the end. You can work with it however you like, but whenever you want, you can book in an individual session with a mentor where you just agree between you a Zoom time, and then you have a one-on-one Zoom. And that's where you can, they're not designed as therapy. I mean, inevitably in this work, because we're working with the self and we're taking a transpersonal journey, if you like, personal material will come up. But the idea of the mentorship is to really help you get the best out of the course and to understand the theories and to be able to work with the ideas and the exercises effectively. And then you can sort of expand that experience if you want to by having more experiences with the mentor if you wish. So we're moving into April, and we're looking at the developmental journey that psychosynthesis offers. Concepts of individuation, of self-realization, and so on. And again, two parts of that, 2 separate Zooms, the theory and the practice. But we'll be doing some practice in the theory as well, because theory on its own can be very dry, and it needs some experience to make it come alive. As you're going along, you also have access to a really great piece of software which is called Sutra, which presents the material for you. There's written material, there's the homework material, there are videos. We suggest, for instance, podcasts that you can listen to that illuminate certain topics. And then what I've done over the last couple of years is I've just sat down with psychosynthesis practitioners in different countries and just had informal conversations with them, asking them, those kind of questions that, intrigue one, like, what do you do and how do you use psychosynthesis in your in your practice, in your work, and which are your favorite bits, which are the bits that you tend not to work with, and so on and so on. So I've talked to people in Mallorca, in Bulgaria, in the United States, in France, and in the UK. And so those are there as optional extras for you to watch at your leisure as well. And then you're moving into May, and we're looking at the psychosynthesis understanding of cognitive functions, a kind of interesting way that Assagioli, the developer of psychosynthesis, understood cognitive functions and expanded Jung's concept to include more than Jung's range. And again, we work with determining how our cognitive functions are working, and we work with exercises with those. And as well, what's happening is there are also expert webinars coming in. So we bring in people, and you'll see that detailed in the on the website. But we have in addition to all of this, we have every 3 months we have a specialist who comes in and talks about their particular specialty within psychosynthesis in relation to the core, the part of the course that you've got to. So that's typology. And then we're going into July and we look at subpersonalities. Perhaps what psychosynthesis is the most famous for, and which many books and courses might dive into at the beginning. We deliberately keep it to the end of this first phase because it makes much more sense to engage with this aspect of what are known as parts in internal family systems theory or subpersonalities. When you understand all the other things, then it really comes to life and you can work with them. And then we get a month off in August. We have a break in August. And those 6 modules, essentially, you have now got the building blocks of psychosynthesis. Over those 6 months, you've really, we hope and believe, have those building blocks in place. And then after the break, we move into the final 3 months where it's about applying all that you've learned, the building blocks. And so module 7 is on psychosynthesis techniques, where we're looking at the question, well, okay, I get it, there are these various interesting theoretical positions, and I've been through exercises that show me how powerful they can be and so on, but how are they actually used in psychology and education and in therapy, and what sort of strategies are used and methods are used. So that's what we look at in September. In October, we turn to, okay, how does this relate to mental health challenges? How do we work with depression, anxiety, trauma-related conditions, and so on, with a psychosynthesis perspective and methodologies? And then the final session is on developments, applications, and integration in November, where we look, because psychosynthesis is applied in so many fields, we give you a feel for the range of ways in which can be applied. And then we home in on particular applications. Last year we homed in on psychedelic integration work and on coaching. And we'll probably do the same thing again, although we're open to if there's a real interest, because by now we've been traveling together for 9 months, and we're dialoguing and talking and all the rest of it. And if there's a particular interest of a particular application, we can pivot towards that as an example. So that hopefully gives you a feel, and then so you've got to November, and you've had a month's break in August. You've got a 125-page manual that is made up of the theoretical explanations for each stage that has gradually built up for you. So hopefully that manual, you're already familiar with the material, but you've got it there all in one place as well. And you've taken your own journey. You've had your 3 or more one-on-one mentorships. And you've got the recordings to watch if you want to refresh your memory or if you've missed anything. And you then feed back to us in a formal way. There's no essays to write, no assessment to complete. But we need to hear back from you about what your journey was like. And once we hear back from you, you're issued with a certificate, and if you want to, you can then attend the Alef Trust graduation ceremony in March. We haven't attended it yet for last year's students, so I'm not sure what happens, but it lasts an hour and a half, so there must be something interesting going on, and that's optional if you want to. And you've come to the end of the course. So there you go. I think I've covered everything. If there's, but we're going to have at least 20 minutes for questions afterwards. So if there's anything that this has brought up for you, by all means ask it in the question time. And I think now, Sacha, we can go into an exercise for you to see. Well, what is a psychosynthesis exercise? What does it feel like?
Okay. So I'd like to invite you to close your eyes if that feels comfortable. If not, you can just lower your gaze. And just relaxing into whatever you're sitting on, whilst remaining in an alert position at the same time. And beginning by paying attention to your inner experience. I'd like you to try and go back in time, in the past, a time in the past where you were facing a difficult, challenging decision. Let's take a moment to choose what that time might have been. And relive that experience as fully as you can. And as you do that, recall how your body felt. How it moved. How you were feeling. And what your thoughts were at that time. Try to recall how the world looked to you from within this experience. And now imagine a companion you would have liked to have with you. Someone whom you could trust. And with whom you would feel completely comfortable during this difficult time. This companion may or may not remind you of a specific friend that you already know. There is something familiar about them. Take some time to develop a sense of this companion. What are their qualities? What are the qualities of the person with whom you would choose to be with at this time? How would they respond to you? What, if anything, might be said? And what would they communicate without words? Take some time to explore this person's presence. Making any changes in your sense of them that you might need in order to feel completely comfortable. And now I'd like to invite you, if you are willing, to take another step. Imagine that you are this perfect companion. That those qualities are yours. And try looking back at yourself, facing that decision and experience what feelings and thoughts you have from this perspective about the you in front of you. What might you say to yourself about what you see and sense from this perspective? Imagine bringing the qualities and attitudes of your imagined companion into your relationships with others, with your family and friends, people at work, and in your community. Imagine being with yourself in this way. How do you feel from this new perspective? And now in your own time, we're going to gently come out of this experience and back into the here and now. And open your eyes when you feel comfortable to.
Thank you, Sacha. Thank you. So maybe somebody'd like to share their experience of that exercise. It'd be really, really good to hear. Just either put up your hand or just unmute.
I'll do it.
Oh, we've got Andrew and Jenny. Okay. Well, Jenny, you go first, and then we'll have Andrew. Yeah.
Okay. I'm always the annoying student who can't handle that stifling silence when the instructor asks for input.
I know that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a transpersonal trauma therapist. So I've been doing a lot of visualization similar to this. I guess that was really intense because, at first the companion didn't really have a form, but the guiding was very cool because then it allowed this entity to sort of manifest and then to have that entity become oneself. That was pretty helpful. So I don't know, in talking about the trauma or the difficult decision, it was a decision I made about a year ago now to not choose violence. And being American, as you folks know, deep apologies, we have a very violent culture right now. It's at toxic pandemic levels. And so it was a big deal for me to choose something else, to choose peace instead. And it was nice to kind of go back and revisit that feeling in your body, but to see it from a different perspective. It was really cool.
Lovely. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you. Yeah.
No problem.
And Andrew.
Yes, I think I found the most useful bit for me was the feeling it in your body. So when I went back to the situation last year, which was work related, but it was kind of the feeling I had when I first went back there was like burning. So there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of frustration, etc. And I could actually feel almost like my body was burning. And that was the sensation when I thought back. I thought, yes, actually, that is how it felt in a way, almost like I was like this hot coal. And then as that sort of meditation progressed, I kind of felt that cooling and calming, and that presence, if you like, which then developed into that person you want to be for others. I think I found that incredibly empowering. So it kind of that cooled that burning immediately. So that was the physical sensation I felt, was just that cooling, and then a sense of perspective, and also a sense of encouragement, that kind of almost like that kind of, it's all right, it is tough, but you've got this. You've got the resources, you can do this. And I kind of got that sense that the person I needed, I didn't want mollycoddling. I didn't want someone to be sympathetic. I just needed someone to say, you've got this, it's all right, just keep going. To just believe in me, listen, hear me out, believe in me, and then I felt I could move forward. And then that was wonderful. I love the way that you go from that sort of looking at yourself and then saying, well, how would you like to be in the world? How would you like to turn up in the world? I thought, actually, yes, that's the kind of support I'd like to offer people, because that's what I needed, was not sympathy, but to just recognize that person can handle this. You've got the resources, and that encouragement, almost like a cheerleader kind of idea. Anyway, that was my experience.
Lovely. Well, thank you, Andrew. Yes, thank you. And you can see, I hope, how that exercise that Sacha led so beautifully, was like, what, 10 minutes, something like that, 12 minutes. So it was pretty brief, and but it can go very deep and really and be really helpful and give us insight. And we've chosen that exercise because it really strikes to the heart of psychosynthesis, I think, in terms of the way it works and how it's a very empowering way of working, because it recognizes the different levels of body, feelings, and mind, but also of will as well. One of psychosynthesis is particularly strong on an understanding of the will and the way, in fact, we are willing beings, and how we will in the world. And so yeah, thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to share their thoughts? And Jenny was pointing to that, that excruciating feeling of the silence in a group. And if you can imagine that one of the features of this course, this training, is that it's a community, it's a group of people. We get to know each other over the course of 10 months. And so the initial kind of inhibitions and hesitations and all the rest of it, which of course completely natural and normal, gradually we build trust, and we're able to share really deeply, and that has the effect of really helping us to grow and develop. So we're working interactively. So if you can imagine now, for instance, after this exercise, this is just to give you a sort of taste. But if you imagine if you did this exercise, and then you went into breakout rooms with perhaps just 2, 3, 4 people in it, and then you shared your experience, and then came back together in the big group, and then everybody was sharing together. You can build up a really, and we all learn from each other, and yeah. So let's make time now, and over in the coming sort of minutes, if you want to share your experience, please do. But also let's open it up now to any questions you might have. I would imagine that the reason you're here is because you've seen the course on the website and are intrigued by it in some way, and are considering possibly enrolling on it. And so now's the chance really is to ask any question you like. You can type it into the chat if you want to, or because we're a small group, just pop your hand up, or here we go, Malcolm.
So this is just a question to Sacha. With the exercise that you took us through, if you were doing, I realize that you're constrained by time, and this is an introduction. How would you have done it differently if you're working with someone, like on a one-to-one?
So, well, I would before doing an exercise like that, I would probably know my client quite well. So we would have built an element of trust by the time I bring in that kind of exercise, although you can obviously bring it in at any time. But and I might use something specific that I know about that person. So I might tweak it a little bit to suit the needs of the person, what I know about them. But really, I wouldn't change that much, to be honest. I would probably do it pretty much. I might go a bit slower. Obviously, today we've got less time, but I think, it takes time sometimes to remember, and people maybe not sure which experience they want to draw on, and lots of experiences come in. And so I would slow it down a little. But it's an exercise by someone called Molly Brown, who is a psychosynthesis trained practitioner. And she's written several books, including The Unfolding Self and this new book of hers, I can't remember what it's called, actually, her latest one. And she's rewritten that exercise a couple of times. So this is her latest version of it. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
And Erica.
Yeah, thank you. I'm curious who the program is best geared toward. Is it therapists, coaches, general interest, and then how would that be reflected in the experiential? So, for example, is it focusing on our own process, focusing on helping others, or a combination?
Yeah. It's Sacha, do chip in at any time, but it's geared towards really three kinds of people. One would be the curious person who doesn't have any prior training, isn't a therapist or a counsellor, but is interested in this field. The second group of people would be those who have trained. We had quite a few people who were training in integrative therapy or who did integrative therapy. So people who've trained in counselling and therapy in some form or another, or were in training, and are interested in exploring another modality. And then also people who trained in psychosynthesis a long time ago, who maybe trained 30, 40 years ago, 25 years ago, and want a kind of refresher. So that's who it's aimed for. And in terms of the process, I mean, I'm aware that in a way that exercise that we did with you, we were going in quite deep, quite fast, and what I think is we're doing over the 10 months is we're taking a journey together, trying to do this balancing act of honouring people's individual differences, but also taking a group journey. So some of the exercises and aspects of the course will be of less interest to some people, and others of more interest. Typology is a particular example. There's a particular form of psychosynthesis typology that is really intriguing for many people, but some people don't like typologies. So we're trying to balance the aim is that you come out of this at the end after 10 months and you really know what psychosynthesis is, in a way that even people who've done some trainings may not necessarily have. I mean, the grounding, I think, is really, really solid and comprehensive. But you've also undertaken your own individual journey within the group. I don't know if that gives you a sense of. I would say, wouldn't you say, Sacha, about 70% of the students last year were therapists?
Yeah, I was surprised at the amount, actually, of students who are therapists.
Yeah, I would say
I'll add to what you said, that I think sometimes it's beneficial to come along just for a self-developmental experience.
Yeah.
When I did my foundation year in psychosynthesis, I was not planning to be a therapist.
Yeah.
I did it purely because of what I was going through at that time, and I needed, I wanted to dive deep into something to understand myself better.
Yeah.
So it's an immense tool to beginning the journey of self-discovery and self-awareness.
Yes. So that someone who wasn't a therapist or counsellor and wasn't interested in becoming one, I think would benefit from this course. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyone who's interested in the psyche, really.
Yeah. Tara.
Hi, yeah. It's kind of related, I think, to that question. But if someone, for example, doesn't have a therapeutic background and they're looking to kind of get into this field or into training, what does the certificate at the end support the process into like entering into the psychosynthesis, like learning train, for example, or other therapeutic modalities? Do they ever count or consider this certificate or this training as like some valid starting point or background for someone who's like quite new to all of it?
Yes, absolutely. What it does is it enables you to train with the institute. If you're in the UK, there are two main teaching bodies: the Psychosynthesis Trust and the Institute of Psychosynthesis. And the Institute of Psychosynthesis recognizes it as allow you to skip their first step of their training. They've got, so there are sort of various, like all these trainings, there are various sort of steps that you take. And by completing a certificate with this program, they regard it as equivalent to their first step in their training, which they call the foundations. I was getting muddled up because they have different names for them: elements, foundations, the foundational fundamentals. Fundamentals, I think they call it. Yeah, the fundamental program. So that it does help in that regard. In the wider field of psychotherapy and counselling education, which is vast. I mean, it's vast, as you probably know. I mean, it's huge and it's very varied. And you unfortunately won't be able to waive a certificate from this training and somehow jump any stages in any other program. It's only with the Institute of Psychosynthesis that you can do that. Malcolm.
So let me. This is a big question. I'm not sure. So I gather, for example, like the exercise that Sacha took us through, the visualizing, using our capacity to imagine, to evoke images, memories, that kind of thing, is a very important aspect of it, of psychosynthesis. How does psychosynthesis differ from other modalities which also use a fair bit of visualizing, using images, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
What is it? What is it that makes it different?
Okay. Here's the interesting thing about psychosynthesis, which is that it's very eclectic. It's very integrative. It isn't, unlike some schools which have a particular method. If you take anything really, IFS, Gestalt, the Freudian analysis, they will have specific techniques that are specific to them. Psychosynthesis is very broad, and when it started to be taught and practiced, from kind of the 70s onwards, really, its work with subpersonalities and with visualization was pretty new and unique to psychosynthesis, or just a small amount of other kind of approaches. Now, over the last 50 years, really, the use of visualization in personal growth and psychotherapy, of course, has grown enormously, and the working with subpersonalities has become, has become very big and developed as well. So, on the one hand, one answer to your question would be, well, it's not really used in any different way to other modalities might use it. I think, Assagioli, who developed psychosynthesis, was very interested in the work of a man called Robert Deswal, who was a French psychotherapist who worked with the power of symbols and of, this very, very sort of simple details, like, are you going up or down when you visualize? Are you going sideways? Are you going back? Are you going forwards? What happens when you visualize going up a mountain or down into a cave, for instance, and why is that different, and so on. And he was also, of course, interested in Jung, the work of Jung, and the understanding of we spend some time, I think it's in about the third month in, we spend some time looking at the differences between Jungian psychology and psychosynthesis, because Assagioli was in correspondence with Jung, and he actually worked at the Bergholzli, the psychiatric hospital in Switzerland, for a while, as well as Jung. So there are interesting differences and similarities and points of connection. So, Callie.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, sorry, I've had everything muted. So sorry.
Good to see you.
So, hi there. Question for you that I have is, realistically, what I know it's, you've said, it's up to the individual how much they put into it, what they get out of it, but as a kind of ballpark thought, and realistically, what kind of time commitment would you envisage each month, say, the course having on the individual?
Yes, okay, that's a really good practical question. Imagine, so you've got a 1.5 hour Zoom once a fortnight.
Yeah.
That's the time commitment, the basic time commitment. Then what happens is you've got access to this space called Sutra, where you go in and you'll see, and it's you get to each module one by one. You'll see the next module's coming up, and the recordings are there for you to watch if you want to refresh your memory, or if you missed it for whatever reason. The recordings are there, and then there's some text for you to read. And what I've done is we put against each item how much time we think it'll take. So we put an hour and so on. So for instance, in February you'll do a 1.5 hour Zoom where we'll kind of start to build the learning field and the community and get to know each other, sort of set sail. It always feels like sort of gathering our supplies before we set sail on the boat, and getting to know the fellow members of the crew and all the rest of it. So we get and then so that's an hour and a half, and then you're invited to watch a film, a really great film, which is an hour long. And so you've got an hour there, and then you've got some, an exercise that we'd invite you to do, which is, I think it's half an hour, something like that. So we give times against the tasks, as it were, and so looking at 2 that's 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. I would say 6 hours a month. If you just did the Zooms, it would be a shame if you didn't read the material we sent you, or listen to the podcasts, or watch the films. It would be a shame. I mean, you could still do it, but so you're probably talking about, say, 6 hours a month. Say,
okay,
8 hours. If we made it 8 hours a month, what's that? 2 hours a week.
Yeah,
8 hours a month. Yeah, so that's kind of it. But also with the option to spend a lot more time if you want to.
And that's obviously that's independently of study time for reading, suggested reading and that kind of thing. So you'd add that on.
No, well, no, I've included the kind of basic reading that we offer
Okay.
you, but then we offer you supplementary. So what we try and do is give you, like, if you haven't got too much time, just read this one PDF and do these 2 Zooms a month.
Yeah.
And by the end of 10 minutes, you'll have a really, you will know a lot about psychosynthesis. You'll have a really good handle on it. However, we then suggest other things for you to read and watch and listen to, which, if you've got the time and you can do it, this will really fill out your experience and deepen it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
And also, if I might add, Callie, you can go onto the Sutra space and rewatch any of the interviews that were done, any of the recordings that were done. So if there was a specific interview with one of the psychosynthesis guests that come in, you can go back and listen to it again and again if you want to.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So Andrew, yes.
How long do you have access to the materials after the course is complete?
Yeah. You have access until we lobbied for lifetime access, but Alef explained to us quite reasonably that the sort of storage space on their server would just get hopelessly full. So, excuse me. So you have until February 27. So what we do is we aggregate all the PDFs that we send you into this 125-page or 150-page manual. So you don't need to do it yourself, as it were. You have all the written material we've given you, that you can download, and that's it. And you can download and you can obviously have all the sort of URLs of the films that we recommend and the podcasts and all the rest of it. The bits that you would lose, that unless you, I believe the term is ripped, the videos, you would lose the Zooms, the 2 1.5 hour Zooms, by February of 27. But for instance, the series of informal conversations with practitioners, you'd have access to all those other kinds of things. And I see that in the back room they've sent a note saying, yes, there is. So next week there's a 3-hour workshop. If you want to sort of dip your toes in, there's a 3-hour workshop we're doing from 6 to 9. And then if you choose to enroll, the cost of that gets deducted from the full cost of the course. But if you want to just, if you want to dive in and would really like to do the 10-month course, then you've got the link there. It's starting on February the 4th, which is in about 3 weeks. So we're about to finish. Is there anything?
One more question from Andrew.
Yeah. Andrew, sorry, are you?
Sorry, yes, it's me again.
Yeah.
I know you were talking about how it's designed for people who aren't therapists as well as people who are. But I was wondering, you talked about later on, you start looking at the practical application of psychosynthesis in therapy. Yeah. So does that mean that later on we need to have sort of gather case studies? Do we need to?
No. It's presented in such a way as if you're already a therapist or a counsellor, you will have an understanding of how you can adapt and work with or make use of the perspectives and techniques that psychosynthesis uses into your own practice. And if you're not a therapist or a counsellor, it shows, it explains to you how it's used in application, where in the range of techniques available and how they're applied. But there isn't time, and as those of you who've trained as therapists will know, I mean, it takes a long time to develop these skills, and which is why the trainings are also lengthy and expensive, often. And there simply isn't the time to do that. So it's geared towards, so that if you already have, if you've already trained in therapy and counselling and know the various skills involved and have practice and so on, it'll be really easy for you to say, I mean, even you, I mean, you can probably see, as Malcolm was asking Sacha earlier, you'd be able to see how, oh yes, I could use an exercise like that. That might fit in. It's all about context and so on. But for somebody who hasn't done that training, you will then have a really good sense of how these techniques are used and in what situations and all the rest of it. Yeah. Good. Well, thank you so much for coming along, and we really hope that we'll see some of you, all of you, at in a few weeks' time. Thank you for coming, and thank you for to those who. Jenny, you've got a hand up quickly.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So in terms of the logistics of you guys had on your site that you could do payment installments. You also had the timeline it begins on February 4th, correct? But when is like the registration closing? When does that happen? And do you need to do, or it's this 3-hour course that you guys also referenced something that's like a prereq, or is it separate?
No. If you, it's not a prerequisite, and it's going to cover sort of similar material to what you'll have in the course. So if you're kind of sure that you want to do the course, you don't really have to do the 3-hour workshop, because we're trying to give people, for people who still aren't sure, because we appreciate that it's quite an investment and it's quite a long time, and so it's designed for if you still you're not entirely sure and would like to kind of dip your toes in and feel a bit more what it's like, then it's there for you. But it's not a prerequisite. It's not like you'll miss it if you just dive in and do the whole course. Yeah. As regards the pay, when does it close? I'm afraid I don't know. One of the lovely.
I think earlier in the thread. It's gone, but someone, I know I'm in a different thread now. Someone said that, the 10-month course starts on February 4th, so within the next 2 weeks you need to sign up.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, prior to February 4th.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that, if you sign up on the 3rd, you're not going to be turned down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah. Good.
Good. Philip, sorry, just one last thing. The 3-hour, it's in person, isn't it? It's not on Zoom.
No, it is on Zoom.
Oh, it is. Oh,
somehow.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's on Zoom. So and we'll try and cover. We'll cover some of the material, but as I said, we'll be covering the same ground in the main course. So don't feel that you have to do it to get everything, because you'll be getting that material in the main course. But this is just to give you a 3-hour sort of taste of it, if you wanted a bit more, of an understanding of what it's going to be like and all the rest of it. Yeah, great. Okay. Well, we've just gone a wee bit over time. So thank you all for coming. And
thank you.
Look forward to seeing some of you, I hope, in a few weeks' time. Okay. Bye.
Bye.